Path of Exile 2 has an incredibly deep endgame that just never seems to end. I'm currently on tier 15 maps, and I've gotten my character to the point where I'm absolutely obliterating them. I've been farming so many tier 15 maps that I'm able to actually sell the excess ones. I got my ascendancies done, I've been trading a bunch. Everything about my character is really online, and this is kind of the early stage of the endgame, like between maps 1 and 15, before you start getting into the really crazy stuff. And in this video, I'm going to be focused on that mapping from 1 to 15, from when you first finish the campaign all the way to tier 15 maps. So what we're going to be talking about primarily is going to be trading. So like what to trade, how to trade, all that stuff. We're going to be talking about mapping, so atlas strategies, how to go infinite, when to upgrade, where to spend your maps, all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to be talking about the ascendancies, when you should try to do them, and how strong you should be, and exactly how you do them. Let's start by talking about trade, because the trade is going to be the cornerstone of most of your endgame activities. And if you're new to PoE, you're probably a little intimidated or, you know, kind of not interested in trading because you're probably thinking it's going to be very convoluted and annoying, but PoE actually has a very robust and simple trade system. So for those of you who already know how to trade, feel free to skip ahead. Everything will be timestamped for the video, but let's move forward with how to trade. So almost all trades are done with exalts, and so this is going to be the main currency that you're going to use. Now you can actually convert all of your currency or any currency you want into exalts by talking to Alva in whatever town that she's in. So this will be like the first type of trade I'll teach you about, is how to convert between different types of currency. You basically just talk to her, you tell her, you know, I want augment orbs, and I have, you know, transmutations, and you'll see that at a ratio of 1 to 4, I can trade my transmutations for augments from other players. And I'm going to be paying a gold fee to do it. In this case, it would be 80 gold. So you're able to translate any currency into any other currency. And there's a lot of things that are considered currency you probably wouldn't expect, like breach materials, like it just everything. Like there's so much random stuff in here. You can look through it yourself. But so that's kind of the first form of trade, is how you can convert different currencies into different things. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to sell gear. So the strategy that I use is I have a stash tab here where everything I put into that tab will automatically get listed to the website. And this works with default tabs, by the way. You don't need anything special. It'll automatically get posted to the website for 1 exalt, which is kind of like the minimum. So any kind of like decent resistance piece of gear or whatever I get, I'll just toss it in here. And if it sells, it sells. And if not, it doesn't. And what will happen is somebody will message me and say like, hey, I want to buy this item. You just, you know, like this guy just did. You just invite him to party. And then it'll actually highlight the item in your stash for you. And you just trade it to him. It's really simple. And then I have a stash tab here, and I'll show you how to set these tabs up. But I have a tab here where I can customize the price. So you can see this one is set to 3 exalts. So this gets posted on mine. And actually, I'm going to drop this because it hasn't sold. So I can just drop the price real quick. Now it's 2 exalts. And then I have a third tab here. This is where I sell my tier 15 maps. And everything in this tab gets posted for 3 exalts. So to set this up, like let's just use a new tab just to show you. This one. So you just right click the tab to pull up this menu, you click public, and then you can determine how you want to price items. So when you want to set up exact price on all items, change it to exalt, and we'll say like, you know, 1 exalt per item, bam, set up. Now every item I post in here will automatically get posted to the trade site, and it'll be 1 exalt. For custom items, you can see set price of each item. We can drag in a helmet, and then right click it, and then say exact price, exalt orb 1, and that'll get posted for 1 exalt, and that's it. You're done. That's all you have to do to list items. And if people message you, or they won't message you, but it's worth it to just toss in stuff. You're gonna get some like extra currency while you're playing, and then that currency you can use to upgrade your own gear, or you can use it for trading. This is the PoE2 trade site, and this will be linked below in the description, and it's really simple to use. So basically, like I'll show you guys how to set up a really basic search. So let's say I want a helmet. So you come into item category, you just type in helmet, and then let's say I want an armor helmet, and I don't want it to have energy shield or evasion. So this will only give me pure armor helmets. So it's like you set the minimum armor to 1 and the max energy shield and evasion to about 0, so you only see ones with armor. And then let's say I want cold resistance. And then I just hit search, and bam, look at all this gear. And all you have to do is you click this button here, it'll actually whisper them in game, and then they'll just invite you to their party. And this is the same way that they're going to be buying gear from your stash tab. So I can just like whisper this guy. I don't know if he's going to be here or not. It's pretty cheap, but in theory, then he would invite me to the party, and I could buy the item from him, and then I would have the item, and that's how simple it is. And this is going to massively boost your character very quickly. So when you first get to max level, you want to utilize trade. If this guy invites me, I'll actually buy it. But you want to utilize trade to get your resistances capped and to get your like cheap gear that has a lot of good stats. So check this out, for instance. Like, let me reset all filters, and let's look at weapons with levels to all melee skills, minimum 3. So look at this. For 1 augmentation orb, you can buy a +4 to all skills quarterstaff. That's crazy, dude. 1 aug. You have infinite augs. I know you do. So you can literally just come in here and buy some like huge upgrades and really get your character rolling. And this, like selling and buying and stuff, will be the main gameplay loop that you should be engaging in, like between maps and stuff. And it's really simple to get into, and it's really fun. So next, we're going to be talking about the main farming loop of the game, which is mapping. When you start mapping, you're basically going to be at tier 1 maps, and the goal is going to be to progress from tier 1 to tier 15, which is currently well, you can technically hit 16 with like weird crafting, but tier 15 is the highest that can drop, and you're going to need a bunch of different systems interacting with each other in order to progress through the mapping system. So let's start by talking about map crafting. Now, my advice to you is to invest heavily into your maps, and I'll explain why in a moment. But first, let's look at how simple this is. So here we just have like a base tier 5 map that doesn't do anything. I can toss an aug into it, and look at that, 97% increased rarity of items. So this includes the map drops, this includes gear drops. That is just a huge buff. Plus each suffix on this actually buffs this up even more. So then we can also then hit it with an aug, and bam. So even though it's a drawback, the 30% increased monster damage, we're going to get more loot. My advice to you, by the way, is to also regal. And that'll upgrade it to a rare. And one thing you're going to notice is that waystone drop chance, this stat right here, went up every time I crafted it. That was lucky this time. It's RNG whether or not it goes up with each craft. But what's not RNG is that each craft significantly improves the map. And regals are actually very cheap, so check this out. So if I come over here to buy a regal, and like for 1 exalted, I can get 8 regals. So if you can get an item worth 1 exalted, or you get 1 exalted drop from a map, you can run 8 rare maps after that. That is incredibly powerful. Rare maps are significantly better than blue maps or gray maps. So it's definitely worth it to use all 3 currencies on every single map. I would never run a map that's not yellow unless you're completely out of regals and can't afford them. Now, map progression did get a lot easier with the change to loot recently, and particularly with the fix to maps, where they now drop much more frequently. But if you're dying much at all, you're going to have a hard time progressing through the map system. It's very important to have a tanky, high survivability build that is able to do maps back to back to back without ever dying, so you can properly push them. And how do you push maps, you might be wondering? The answer is bossing. So a normal map, you maybe average like 1 to 3, I would say, waystones per map, depending on how lucky you are and what tier you're on and all that stuff. But bossing maps, that you have a guaranteed drop from the boss to drop an equivalent map level, and it has a chance to drop 2, and the whole rest of the map can also drop 1. So if you don't know, the bossing icon is this little like demon guy here. And he just represents that there's a boss in the map. And so these are where you want to spend your keystones. So for instance, like just to give you an example, currently I have a 1, a 3, and a 4. Well, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to craft all of these up to rare. Even the level 1, it's worth it. So I'm going to upgrade all of these. And the maps are going to get so much better because I'm doing this. And then what I want to do is I want to use my low tier maps to move. So for instance, right here, you can see I have like a map here that does nothing, a map here that has +1 to all mob levels, and then I have the boss map. I do not want to spend my 4 until I'm at the boss map. This is because if I spend it, there's a high chance that I'm not even going to get a 4 back, and I'm actually going to regress downward. But if I save it for the boss map, I'm very likely to get a 4 back. In fact, I believe it's actually guaranteed to get a 4 back, and you're likely to get even more maps as well. So that ends up being really good. So save your best maps for boss runs, use your ones and like your low tier maps for traveling, and then spend your mid tier maps on maps that have bonus effects, like, you know, if it has breach or delirium or whatever you want to farm. I'm not going to get into like optimized farming for that right now, but you know, spend your medium currency ones on things that have some bonuses, spend your big ones on maps that have bosses, and spend your small ones on travel nodes. Now, the second piece of this is the Atlas tree. So when you first start mapping, you're going to have a quest to do 10 level 1 maps, and then it's going to be 10 tier 2, then 10 tier 3. And keep in mind, you can actually do any tier above that. So if you have the tier 1 quest, you can do tier 4, and you're still going to progress the quest. And the good question to ask would be, well, how should I prioritize my Atlas? The answer is, in my opinion, the first thing that you want to get to is constant crossroads. So a lot of people recommend fortunate path, but this is, in my opinion, a fairly low value node because we can just use a transmutation, augmentation, and a regal, and we get the same effect. But if you're trying to push your maps to higher tier, if you don't get the maps, you can't do them. So quantity is much more important, in my opinion. And then after you get the quantity node, I think Fortunate Path is actually a fairly decent option because there is value in getting higher rarity maps, because when you regal a map, you're only going to 3 affixes, but if you get like a rare as a drop, you can get 4 or 5 affixes. So there is value in that, plus it saves you a regal. So I think it becomes better to pick up Fortunate Path after you've got constant crossroads. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to path towards is the high road. This is going to give you a 20% chance for waystones to be a tier higher. And after high road, I recommend that you go straight into deadly evolution. And the reason for this is because you're going to get 2 6% quantity nodes. I'm currently actually running the third one because I don't know if fully convinced my Atlas tree is the best setup, but I think this is actually decent because I'm selling my tier 15 maps. I'm getting tons of currency for it. But deadly evolution is going to make your rares even better. And then what I like to do is I come over here, pick up increased rares on the maps, increase rares on maps, increase rares on maps. And then, you know, the rares have more modifiers, so they drop more loot and there's more rares. Another thing that's really good is to come up here and get these waystones have a chance to be a tier higher nodes. Again, you can see like you want to invest really heavily into waystones, especially early. Now, once you get tier 15s completely on farm, if you want to, you can spec out of these. I bet you the value of tier 15s is going to drop pretty quickly, so it's not going to be as worth it to sell them anymore. But yeah, this is how you want to map it at the very beginning. Now, the next thing we need to talk about are the Ascensions. So you're gonna get two Ascensions for doing the campaign. I assume you guys already know how to do those. But in the end game, the Ascensions get a little bit trickier. So you're gonna get currency as you progress through the game and stuff, and you're gonna get drops that let you open up those ascendancy trials again, except this time at a higher level. Now what you need is something that says number of trials being at least 3 or 4 so that you can actually progress your ascendancy when you do it. And what's nice is they just added this thing here where it says completing this ascension trial will grant an additional ascendancy point. And in my opinion, this is by far the easier ascendancy, which is the trial of the Sekima in Act 2. And a lot of people probably don't agree with that at first, but the reason it's so easy is because of relics. If you spend a little bit of time and farm out relics, you're going to get a lot of this stat called honor resistance. So you see here I have 30, 11, so 41, 67, 84, and then this, I think it's capped at 85. I don't know for sure. But anyway, I have 85 honor resistance roughly, and that is going to mean that I lose 85% less honor when I get hit. This makes this Ascension trial so much easier. Now, my recommendation to you is to actually go to trade, and you can buy these Ascension trials for super cheap. And they're not only cheap, but you can buy them at low level. So look, so you can see like number of trials here, right? So right here, this is a level 71 with 3 trials, and this is a level 73 with 3 trials. So I can buy the 71, And then instead of having like higher level mobs, I'll have lower level mobs. And it's the number of trials specifically that affects whether or not you can ascend. For your second ascension, you need a number of trials 3. And then for your final ascension, you need number of trials 4. Unfortunately, I keep crashing every time I try to do this. Hopefully it'll get fixed from today's patch. I haven't tried it again since the patch today, but that's why I don't have it yet. But yeah, I think that the trials is much easier because you can get so much honor resistance that it becomes extremely easy. Now, if you choose to go the other route, these inscribed ultimatums, whenever you complete it, you're going to get a currency at the end of the ultimatum, as long as it has at least 10 trials. It needs to have 10 trials, or like you can see here on the 7, it doesn't do that. But on the 10s, you're going to get this currency at the end of the trial, and after you complete 3 of them, you can open a door and fight the trial master, and he will also give you another ascendancy point. Now that one is a lot grindier and more difficult in my opinion. I think that the honor one is much easier, so that's what I would recommend that you do. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for today's video, guys. Hopefully this was helpful to you. We don't usually do videos like this. Usually we're just builds. So, I really hope this video was useful for you guys. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.